Most finance professionals don't fail because they lack intelligence. Their careers stall because they don't understand the blueprint of growth. Today, we are decoding what it really takes to move from analyst to director in global finance. The skills, the positioning, the mindset shift, and the hard truths that nobody talks about. Hi, I'm Shivhare. I'm the founder of the Life of Choice, and we are building an ecosystem for finance professionals to grow 10x in their career. So to advance this mission, today I have with me Mohan Kumar Prabhu sir, who is a CFA and FRM as well. He is director of Aon and he specializes in investment consulting, investment and portfolio analytics, sustainability and digital innovation as well. So if I describe him in just one line, so I want to say that he is a great human being. So welcome Mohan sir, welcome to this podcast. And I just want you to introduce yourself in your terms. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Prince. Thank you for this opportunity. I think you've already done the introduction, so I don't know how much I can add to that. Like many other professionals, a similar kind of story to kind of repeat. I did my kind of schooling and that kind of primary education and probability engineering in Bangalore. Mostly schooling was in Bangalore. Then did my engineering in Manipal Institute of Technology. I did my BTech in mechanical engineering. Post which I worked in a mechanical firm, which really didn't enjoy. Then I thought I should do my MBA, and then it was a kind of a natural pivot. At those times, I think this is early 2000s we're talking about. There was a natural pivot to say, okay, let's try our hands at management, and that's how I got into management MBA at Wellinkers in Mumbai, and got interested in finance. We had a great professor meaning in the second year, I think we started getting completely curious about the subject. Given the engineering background, I think it kind of improved the understanding as well. Because it required a lot of analytics, but I think the subject itself was very exciting, and that led me to pursue a career in finance. And that's why I'm here. And post that, I've been working in multiple firms across the last 20 years. Started my journey with a firm called WNS, which was again a GCC center, with their business research, M&A intelligence research and stuff. Quickly, post 1 year, I think I moved to Bank of America's investment banking GCC. Worked there for a long time. Also worked with their front-end banking as well for a few years. Then moved to Bangalore post my personal involvement with my wife, and then decided to move to Bangalore, and been with Bangalore ever since. Yeah, last 12 years and been back to Bangalore. Meaning my kind of as I said, as my entire schooling was in Bangalore, so happy to be here now for the last 12 years.
Great,
In
sir.
between all that journey, also did my CFA FRM. Been continuously upskilling myself on different facets of finance, from sustainability to portfolio analytics to digital innovation to technology. Yeah,
Great,
that's
sir.
about me.
Great. Great, sir. And Bangalore moving part was quite fascinating for me as well.
Yeah,
Okay. So, sir, the next thing is you did post-graduation in like business analytics in 2004 something. So how that,
not business analytics.
okay,
It was
okay,
normal
okay,
business management, not
okay.
business analytics. I
So
wouldn't
it
say
was
that's
overall management and
yeah the
how it,
regular MBA program.
okay, okay. So how it helped you in like pivoting? You said like I want to try my hand at management and all. So what you learned there
So
that is
management
going.
was more of initially I thought about management as a career. It was more about enhancing or and my existing mechanical knowledge. I initially first year I remember when I joined, I wanted to do MBA in operations really, which was
Okay.
industrial operations. But just that, I think the rigor of the program and the faculty kind of pivoted me to like the subject of finance in those 2 years. And I think that's how I kind of really pivoted there. I didn't have a plan to really do finance when I joined the MBA program, really, to be very
Okay,
frank.
great.
But I
Great,
think the
sir.
subject was very interesting once you kind of get into the subject, and it was really interesting uh, across
Right,
all
sir.
subjects, right, from economics to financial management to corporate finance to everything. So
Right.
it was a natural pivot. I didn't think it was a planned move. It was just a pivot to kind of move into finance.
Great, sir, great. Yeah, like finance is fascinating. And for me as well. Like when I was studying for CFA and all, I thoroughly enjoyed the curriculum, fully from curriculum and literally enjoyed it. That's a
Yeah.
worth journey for. So, sir, next thing is like you started actually, if we see from finance, like Bank of America and then DSP Merrill Lynch and then lead analyst in some other firm. So you spent 8 years and you reached to lead analyst position. So how you describe your 8 years? Like you took 8 to 10 years, like max to max 8 to 10 years. So that head of the like department we can say did analyst like leading certain sectors. So
Mm.
how will you describe that journey? So if people are watching, if they are working for the 5 6 years, so how can they reach on that path itself, on that position itself?
So see, it's completely dependent on which sort of career you are in, right? So within the field of finance itself, I think there are multiple probably sub careers. What you say, right? So investment banking has a different roadmap, right? Portfolio management has a different roadmap. Probably if you can do GCC kind of a setup, it's a different roadmap, right? If you're into completely into research, it's a completely different roadmap. So I don't think what matters is the title, right? So it's the kind of it's a clear understanding of the career role. For example, a research analyst, if you're into research, let's say equity research, pretty much whole life you're an analyst, right? So
Right,
like 20 years you would be an analyst, but you would be so deep into that sector that you would be kind of the what do you say, the master of the craft by the end of the 20 years. And then probably the natural progression is you go into buy side portfolio management and so on and so forth. So I think the criticality is not in understanding the titles; it's in understanding the job itself, right? And whichever job you find passion in, right? And it can be finance or marketing or operations, and within finance it could be any of these what I'm kind of mentioned now. Within that, I think it's critical you understand the the different skill sets required to probably succeed in that journey and that roadmap, right? So as I said, in investment banking, you may join as an analyst, work a few years, move into an associate, then move into a vice president and a director, and then managing director, so on and so forth, right? Portfolio analytics, or if you're into portfolio management, similar, right? So you would work as a research analyst, work there for a few years, right? Become kind of a sector, then join as an kind of assistant fund manager to a buy side manager, do some portfolio management activities, then slowly start managing your own fund, then you manage a fund manager. Some people also pivot into being institutional sales and stuff like that, right? So they do both sell side and buy side and then come back to buy side, right? So it could be a mix of things, but the criticality is in understanding for each of those sub careers when you transition into the roadmap, what are the key skill sets required? Yeah, if you take a typical, let's take the example of a GCC, which I am kind of been for the last 12 years in a
okay,
investment consulting role from a GCC perspective, right? So typically an entry level as person would come, let's say from fresh MBA college as an analyst, yeah. So he would work there for a few years as an analyst, then move on as a consultant or an associate consultant, work there again for a few years, and then kind of get into some managerial roles, and then get into more of a leadership uh, role like a director or a strategic director, right, or a senior director. So these are the typical roles which you have. But in each of the stage, I think for the audience, I think it's critical you understand the skill sets which are required. For example, in a GCC, typically when you join from, let's say, an entry level to junior level, what are the things which you are held accountable for, right? So there it's typically how good you are delivering for the process or the task which you've been assigned. Yeah, are you a master of your own craft? Yeah, are you diligent with your work? Are you a hardworking person? Do you deliver on time? Right, are you the go-to expert in the process or the specific task or the domain you've been assigned to? So that's your outcome, right? Slowly you start moving from, let's say, a junior level person to a probably a more kind of senior analyst or a junior manager kind of position. There, I think what happens is your evaluation criteria shifts from output to outcomes, right? So how do you tie your work to revenue, cost, risk, customer impact, stakeholder impact, so on and so forth, right? Then let's say you move from a junior manager to start managing people, right? You're a manager. There now you're responsible for also managing the outcomes of the people you are assigned. Yeah. So the two things. One, how good you are at your own work. Second is also how good you are at managing people and making sure that you are overseeing their work and how good they are at their work. Which means that you will have to run projects end to end, right? You'll have to execute, you'll have to de-risk, you have to plan out, scope out projects, things like that. But at the same time, you have to mentor juniors, you have to influence them without authority, you have to probably do all that, right? So that's one task of this. And that's how you're evaluated as well in the success of that. Once you kind of then move into a little, let's say, a senior manager or a junior leadership position, there it is two things, right? One, how you are managing downwards, how you're managing your own people and projects, but at the same, you're managing upwards as well. And this is where I think a lot of people kind of get stuck with, right? So both becomes extremely difficult because these two levers can act completely opposite to each other, right? So what your upward management wants and your downward management wants can sometimes be completely opposite to each other. And how do you kind of manage that? And that's your key skill set. Yeah. And then of course, then you kind of, if you are successful in navigating that objective, then you kind of are pushed into a much more senior leadership position or leadership position. And there it becomes, in addition to all this, what we discussed, it also gets into strategic positioning, right? Which is you have a role in shaping the strategy, not just executing it, but also shaping it, right? But here your skill sets are, or the evaluation criteria are very different. Here you will also need skill sets in terms of, let's say, you coming up with a new project or a new initiative for your organization. Are you successfully able to build and defend a business case for that project? Yeah. Are you able to allocate the right resources to make the project successful? Are you able to build a very strong team, hire them from ground up, create succession plans, develop them, so on and so forth, and making sure that you are creating an organizational layer under you to make sure that the organization itself succeeds in terms of outcomes. Yeah. Now, across all these different stages and roadmaps, which we said, there are few kind of what you call core accelerators. There may be few key skill sets which are required across all the levels, right? So one is, of course, communication, right? You need to be extremely good at communication. Second is your ability to be visible, right? So at every stage, if you're an analyst, you're just doing your work, nobody knows what you're doing, right? And if you have not created that visibility both at your manager level or at your organization level, that becomes an impediment to your growth, right? Communication, you have to be good, you have to be simple, structured, people have to understand what you're talking, things like that. And then third is impact, which is, are you able to show measurable results at every stage of your career? Yeah. So these are probably, I think, the things which I think people need to look at. Of course, some things which I also see with the current lot of people who join organizations is in terms of their what do you call instant gratification results, right? So they want things to happen quickly. There is a what we call expectation inflation of how a career looks like for them. For I think some of the new people who I've seen, the belief is that the growth should always be constant, visible, validated, recognized, acknowledged. Sometimes it doesn't happen, right? So I think people also have to realize the fact that at least at entry level jobs, at least when you join, there are two realities in India, right? And of course, some different countries have a different growth path, but at least in India, we are in a specific situation where there is people with compressed patience meeting an economic system which is compressed opportunity, right? So there is very limited opportunity sets available in terms of jobs, value creation, so on and so forth. And we have a huge youth population with very compressed patience levels, right? Who wants to gratify themselves instantly. I think the only outcome of that is going to be that people who can live through that understanding will be the ones who are successful, right? So people have to clearly understand that entry level jobs, most jobs will involve repetition. There will be a hierarchy. There will be incremental learning, right? So it's not going to be, okay, you did something for 2 years. I did my level 1, level 2. Now I'm ready to be a portfolio manager, right? So that's not how world works. Yeah. So it works. So the people have to appreciate the fact that for the first few years of your career, there would be a lot of repetition of your tasks, and that is what makes you a master of your craft, right? So if you repeat so I think in philosophy, when you say knowledge, right, knowledge is divided into three things, right? Memory, your amount of intelligence and knowledge which you have, which is your understanding things, and third is what you call attention, right? How much deep you are into that and how much you can focus on that subject, right? These are traditionally the levels of what we call knowledge, right, or intelligence. Yeah. But at some stage, just having that three doesn't really matter, right? You have to repeat that over time to become a master of that, right? You may have superficial memory knowledge, and today memory and knowledge also is not a premium because everything AI can do what you can do, right? So you
Right.
don't need to store information in your brain. You don't need to know stuff. Everything is available on the computer, right? So the only differentiating factor you have is how do you become a master at that craft with all that master of all that memory and knowledge, right? So you may have a lot of knowledge on computer, but can you use that knowledge effectively to create value, right? Now
Right.
that comes through repetition, which is you have done that task over and over many, many times, and you know that so well, so that you don't need to depend on a computer for that. Yeah, I think
Got it, sir.
it's critical that juniors do understand that, and that's how the world works. Yeah, this is not going to
Okay.
change, right? Regardless of how ecosystems change, that's not how the world is going to change. Yeah.
Right, I got your point. So we talked about different levels of career, starting mid-career manager and senior level position. So I want to understand that most of the time, finance professionals focus on these two roles, like investment banking or equity research. What are the other roles that people should explore? Because we have a huge demand and supply mismatch. In one of the event when we met in Pune, we were talking about sustainability and all. So I just want to understand where are the opportunities for people like where they can naturally excel and do better in the industry as well.
So see, I think we should differentiate between success of a role and an opportunity of a role. Yeah. So I think your question,
Okay.
if I break it into two areas, right? What you're asking is what are the different opportunity sets of jobs
Right.
available in the market?
Yeah.
And second, within that, how do you then ensure success? Yeah. So ensuring success is something which I kind of had spent the last 10 to 15 minutes on, right?
Exactly.
So any job which you take within that opportunity set, I think those basic principles remain valid. Whether you're in investment banking, whether in research, whether you're in sustainability, whether in portfolio asset management, I think those core basic principles of how you succeed remains valid. Yeah. Then second, of course, is I think people have to realize what that opportunity sets are, right? So for any field which you
Right.
get into, so let's say finance is a topic and finance as an industry, right? There are multiple opportunity sets available, right? So one, of course, why has investment banking and equity research been flashy? I think both those jobs meet a certain checklist of items, right? So what would you call typically if you look at any career, right? What are the things which generally people uh, kind of call as something which is a good job to be in, right? Let's break that down, right? So if you were to have a balanced career and a work life balance and stuff like that, whatever words we use, right, for a good career, what are the things which generally people look at, right? There are 4 or 5 items. Yeah. One, uh, is that activity which you do very engaging? It does it engage your mind and give you a sense of accomplishment, right? So, and of course that probably I think is strongly tied to your own passion, right? So different people have different passions, but if that job is tied to your subject of passion, then probably that activity engages your mind, right? And then it also gives you a sense of accomplishment. So typically for people who are interested in finance, I think banking, research, asset management, things, those kind of roles have all, or private equity, venture capital. These have been roles which probably falls in that category of an activity which engages your mind, right? The second probably activity which, or I meaning characteristic of a good job is freedom, right? The freedom to choose the way you work, how much empowered you are within that organization, things like that. Third is of course wealth, money. Fourth is, are you getting recognized and acknowledged both within the company and outside the company? And fifth is, whom are you working with? Are you working with the best? Does it match your own value systems, right? Are the people who you work match your passion and values, things like that? And that's why you see people when they come together in CFA communities, a lot of bonhomie happens because typical people with similar thinking and skill sets and values come together, right? So these are 4 or 5 things, right? And some of these jobs which you have talked about, I think ticks some of these for at least 3 or 4 out of those points, right? So let's say money is good in banking, right? People you work with are good, right? Sometimes it engages your mind, but there are downsides, right? You end up working
long hours,
20 hours, long hours, right? So it's a mix of thing, right? So then people have to appreciate which of those 5 or 6 things which you articulate in your mind as a good career, which jobs fit into that. Now, some people may be extremely passionate about sustainability as a topic, and for them, if even out of the 5 or 6, three things match really well, they would still take a hit on, let's say, probably their money aspects, for example, right? And then say that I want to really spend my time here. Now, once I've decided that, of course, those things which I spent time on the last 15 minutes in terms of how do you succeed in a career again remains, right? So one is, if I were to just break down your question, one is understanding the opportunity set. Yeah. So that's in any career field, understand an opportunity set. Second is within that opportunity set, evaluate whether it meets those 5 or 6 criterias to in you yourself define what are the good characteristics of a job, right? So I define a good characteristic of the job in those 5 or 6 things, right? Which is, as I said, in the name of reputation, right? So one, which engages your mind. Second, you have a freedom and you're empowered. Third is good money. Fourth is you're getting recognized and acknowledged. And fifth is probably the people you're working with, right? So if it meets a majority of those things, I think then you're in a good career, basically, right? And once you've evaluated that and you have seen the fit, the third is understanding the measures required to succeed in that role. So these are the three kind of broad things, right? So that's how your framework should work. Yeah. So one is identification of the opportunity set. Second is evaluation of that opportunity set in terms of your own value systems and definitions of success. And third is what are the measures required to succeed in that role or in that opportunity set. Yeah.
Got it, sir. You have elaborated a lot, and literally, like if people are seeing this, they can understand that what they need to succeed in their career, in their roles. So I have two cases for you. So first case is like these are real cases. Like before this call, I was interacting with one of my community members and people. So case one is the culture is good, people value you, you are good, you are respected, and work is also good, but money is not good. They are like squeezing. Case one. Case two is money is good, but no value match. People are good, they are doing great, organization doing everything, is good, but there is no value match. As you see the word or like you value other things, the organization doesn't. So what should people do in those cases? Because people are today like not people are earning money, but they feel that I am not valued here. They are not like there is not alignment among values. पैसा आदमी कम compromise कर लेगा, but like जब you are not respected, you are not valued, or like आपकी values ही बिल्कुल opposite है, तो in both of the case, what do you do, sir? It's like what should a professional do when stuck with these two choices?
See, I think so. For you to be at mental peace and succeed in a career, I think it's very critical that whatever job you choose, it has to align with your own value system. So that's very critical, right? So between your choice one and choice two, if I have a choice where I have a job which meets most of my criteria, but money is the only, whatever deciding factor, then I would rather go. At least that's my personal opinion, right? I would rather go with option number one rather than stick in an option number two. Yeah. For option number, where the gap in option number one when it comes to the money part, right? So there is this quote, right? The safest way to try and get what you want is to try and deserve what you want. So when you when you make yourself worthy of that money, I think the money will flow in at some stage, right? The money may not be flowing in because you probably are not deserving what you should be given, right? So one is to make yourself deserve what you need, right? So and that I think that's the safest way, right? So I think everything else comes, and money should be an outcome, right? Money shouldn't be the deciding factor. Money, of course, is important. I'm not saying money is not money is an important factor in careers, but then let's say the first 2 years of a career, if you're not making money, right, but everything else is fitting into your overall evaluation criteria, right? As I said, sometimes there may be two reasons. One, because you don't deserve that. You may feel that you deserve. You may think that you are some outstanding person who were born in this world to deserve everything, right? But the reality may be one is you don't deserve it. So that then what you have to do is go back and think for yourself, right? Self-reflect and say, is this because I'm not deserving, or is it because of some other reason? Now, if the answer is yes, then you make yourself deserving, which is upskill yourself, learn more, network with people more, find the right opportunity, all that, right? Second, if you're not, meaning if you're doing everything, you deserve it, and you're still not getting, then there are certain things which you should do. One is go talk to your manager, see if the organization is supportive, see if there are other people in the organization who can support you for the work you get in or the outcomes which you create. Nothing is happening, of course. The only thing is then you leave the organization, right? So,
Okay, sir.
but I
So
think
first,
it has to
yeah,
be a very methodical, framework based approach to both career and life, right? It shouldn't be
right.
emotional decisions of, oh yeah, today I'm not getting the money I deserve, and then hence I'm just quitting. That shouldn't be
Got
there.
it, right. So
Yeah.
in first case, you said that first value alignment should be there because you would be at peace
That's
then you
more
have money
critical, right? And
more
at
critical.
least in our, when you reach the probably 20 years of experience, you would realize that if money is of course important, I'm not saying money and careers and things like that are not important, but it becomes extremely important that the people you work with align with your value system. Otherwise, meaning there are instances where you really get irritated with kind of people, and those are sometimes the reasons for you to leave, right? You may think that money is the reason for you to leave, but in most times it's the mismatch in the value system which
Yes.
is the
Yeah.
trigger for people to leave.
Yes, sir. Right, sir. So let's shift the gears in money aspect. Like we are talking most about money. So we talked about four levels in career: entry level, mid level, then managerial, and then senior level. So in GCC world, as you have most of experience, so what are the like salary expectation and bonuses? Can you give a ballpark idea for all four ranges, all four levels?
I could, meaning, so that again depends on the type of GCC you are in, right? So there are GCCs who are typically IT service GCCs pay low, right? There may be banking GCCs which pay high even at the junior level, right? So like, meaning a starting salary could vary sometimes somewhere between 8 to 10 lakhs,
Okay.
right? And then you kind of navigate upwards and stuff like that, and it can go up every year, just compound it by 10 to 12%, right? So wherever you are in terms of your experience, it may compound up, right? uh, Assuming you are having a decently successful career through the
Yeah.
organizations or through that. Yeah. Now there may be times when you may have, if you're extremely good and stuff like that, you may have a bit of an exponential growth in between and stuff like that. But average through
Average.
a
Yeah.
typical career of whatever, right? So from your starting salary, if you were to just compound it with around 10%, 10 to 12%, I think it would be a decent number, is what you can expect at the end of 20 years.
So you were saying like Nifty jo return de raha, you can expect that. Okay, average.
Sorry?
So you are saying that whatever the return Nifty is giving you over past 10 years average, you can expect.
Life has a way of averaging out. Yeah. So, so don't, so unless you're an entrepreneur, right? So don't see,
Yeah,
what I'm saying is this is for a career job, right? So don't,
yeah,
like, let's not mix. So there are people who sometimes try their hands at self entrepreneurship, consulting, things like that. And then my answer was very restricted to a kind of a
professional.
safe corporate professional job
Yeah,
over time, right? Now, there may be certain careers, as I said, where the variable component, like investment banking, for example, right? So your fixed salaries may be working on averages, but your variables could be extremely high, right? So there
extremely.
are, yeah, so investment banking, you crack a deal, you may get 100% of your salary, fixed salary itself as bonus in a year, right? So, so if you're getting, let's say, 25 lakh salary, you may get 25 lakh as a bonus itself, right? So those are far and few, meaning those jobs are far and few, right?
Okay.
But traditional GCC kind of setup, and you kind of have a stable career over time, I think life will average out. Yeah, NSE
Okay.
returns is what NSE returns is what you will get. Yeah, but
Right.
as I said, depending on your outcome and output, there may be years when you may get exponential growth, right? So you may get kind of
Got it.
when I say exponential, a little bit exponential, not like 50%
Extra. Yeah.
hikes and stuff. Yeah,
So
but
got
you
the
may
point.
get
So
exponential.
we
Yeah.
talked about first level, 8 to 10 lakh analysts, like mid-level, senior analyst, like consultant. What is the ballpark for them? I want
As
first
I
average
said,
range.
right, just add like 12% like over the number of years, right? So let's
Okay.
say an
Okay.
analyst or senior analyst goes to 3 years, 3 years of work, right? 3 years
Okay.
experience, and he's doing well over those 3 years. Then take 3-year CAGR of 12% and add it to your base salary, right? So something like that.
And sir, what about managerial leadership role? Now these is
Similarly, right?
so how
Similarly,
can be similar?
sometimes what happens is when you move into managerial role, at that the pivoting when it happens from analyst to managerial role, you may get a additional hike, right? But what I'm saying is over time, then it kind of averages because at senior leadership roles, you may not get 12%
Got it.
hikes, right? You may get lesser hikes. So I'm saying over the time of period, it kind of averages down to
Averages.
10-12%, right? Maybe
Okay,
some
sir.
firms give you more, a little bit 14%. Yeah, you may have an alpha of 2%,
Right,
right?
sir. So
That again,
you
see, depends on the job. We can't generalize it, right? So there are
yeah,
multiple.
got your point, sir.
For
Right.
example, let's say you pivot into kind of an AI kind of role, right? And then you are contributing not just from a finance perspective, but also from other
Efficiency perspective.
perspectives, efficiency perspective, outcome perspective. Then there are roles which may take a jump as well, right? So these kind of things happen, right?
Got your point.
I'm just talking at a very ballpark, broad level
Yeah,
average
we
mention. Yeah,
understand.
yeah, yeah.
So for the last 13, 14 years, like since 2014, you are working in Aon as director. So whenever you
No, I didn't
came,
join as a director. Sorry, meaning I didn't
okay,
join Aon as a director. I
okay,
joined as a senior manager and then
okay,
worked through my ranks. I think I became director in 2020 or something. Yeah, last.
okay. So
Yeah,
for
I was
the
an associate director for a long time. Then director, senior manager, associate director, director. Yeah.
okay, for the past 6 years, you were working as director at Aon. And then when you give opportunities to people, opportunity in terms of higher level roles, higher level responsibilities, what three key skills that you want that person should have? Like if you are looking in your team, I'm going
Mm.
to give better opportunities, responsible work to this person. What will you look?
I
Just
think so. I think we discussed right
yeah,
when we
we
started.
discussed,
Yeah,
but
when we
people are
started the
expecting
yeah. So
your
when we started the
people.
conversation, there are a few things, right? One is that person should be, of course, uh, master of the craft which he's been assigned to, right? So I think domain expertise, or what do you call, right? So probably, meaning I'll just give a framework around this as well. So three things which we look at from an evaluation perspective, what we call the 3 A's. Yeah. So one is ability, second is aspiration, and third is agility. Yeah. What do you say as ability, right? Ability is he has one is he's a domain expert or a business expert, what you call it, right? So he has all the skills required both from a business or a domain perspective. Second, he has the client and the stakeholder management skill sets. uh, Third, he brings thought leadership. And fourth, of course, if he's a little more senior role, he brings people leadership skill sets along with that, right? Along with that, as I said, there are a few things which are important, like communication skills, his ability to show impact in terms of measurable results, and he owns it. The typical a person who kind of creates trust in any manager or a superior is someone who owns the task he's assigned to, right? Not just delivers on the task. There's a difference between delivery and ownership, right? Ownership means that he assumes it to be his own kind of pet project, yeah, and he takes complete proactive efforts to make sure that he succeeds along with his team, yeah. So that's a critical skill which I think, and that's critically required when you move into senior manager leadership positions, where that's the first thing which comes out, right? That along with all the other good things in terms of domain skill sets, client stakeholder management, thought leadership, people leadership, are you a person who takes complete accountability and ownership of the task which you are assigned to? That becomes critical. Yeah. Second is, meaning of course, I wouldn't say second because I mentioned like 4-5 points, right? But just break it into the framework,
Yeah,
right? So
ability,
ability,
agility.
ability is where all this comes in. Ability,
Yeah,
agility, and aspiration,
aspiration.
right? Yeah. So ability is where all of this comes in, which is do you have domain expertise and business expertise? Second is, are you good with clients and stakeholder management? Third is, do you have thought leadership when you bring in stuff? Fourth is, how good are you at people leadership? And fifth is, do you own and are you accountable for the project which you are assigned to, right? Which is not just deliver because I asked you to deliver, right? Do you think it's your own project? Do you act like an entrepreneur when you are working on a certain thing, right? That becomes critical. Yeah. So that's about your ability, right? Aspiration is, do you aspire to be at the same place, or do you aspire to do you, is there an aspiration to kind of upgrade yourself, upskill yourself, bring about change in yourself, self-reflect, all that? Yeah. Agility is how good you are at change, right? if there is an ecosystem change, let's say we move from a traditional way of working into suddenly into digital transformation, or right, we need to manage a change, right? How agile are you in adopting to that change, right? So those three things becomes extremely important. And then I think the people who are evaluated well are the people who fit into those three things, right? Where there's a fair balance of ability, aspiration, agility.
Right, so got it. It's a triangle of these three things.
Yeah.
And the people who are working with Mohan sir, your target are these 3 points only. And you can beat the NSC averages.
Yeah.
Okay, got
First.
the point. So the next question is, you do a lot of workshops. First, I've seen a lot of workshops done by you, sustainability workshop, digital workshops, career workshops. Plus, on the other part, you invest a big time in your learning as well. Like you completed some executive program on ISB, now you're IM. So I want you to give that similar thought process to the audience, like who are going to watch it. People working at a very good positions, they are leading the organization, still they are productive in their learning approach. What's the why behind that?
So as I said, right, if you go back to the previous question itself, right? So ability, when you define ability as it's not a static criteria, right? Ability is not something which you define. I did my engineering and whatever 20 years back, and that's static, right? That's knowledge which is static, right? So the world one of the critical things you as a professional need to identify or at least appreciate is that careers are evolving, knowledge is evolving, and as I said, the very understanding that there is compressed opportunity. Now, within that compressed opportunity, if you have to stand out, the only way is make knowledge dynamic, right? Make opportunities dynamic. And the only way to do that is continuously upskill yourself, which is you have to be one kind of appreciative of the fact that your knowledge and what you know could could become irrelevant after 5 years. Yeah, whatever you know today is just irrelevant after 5 to 10 years, right? So the only way you can keep up with the world is you continuously upgrade yourself, evolve yourself. So that's general learning that has been existing over not just today, right? Meaning that's something which every senior professional through his life, even 100 years back, would have done, right? That's at the core of it. But what has changed in recent times with all this new technologies coming in and everything, I think the nature of work has changed. I think people need to appreciate that. Um, well, let's say take 20, 30 years back, right? So, what would you consider as a successful entrepreneur at a very leadership level are two things, right? So, one, knowledge would be, as I said, right? Knowledge has three components: memory and the amount of knowledge you have, right? And so, let's say go to a school, and what would be a successful guy? Somebody who can kind of read a lot of stuff, recall a lot of stuff, which is memory, right? He can recall a lot of textbook stuff, and he can reproduce it, right? And then he can, of course, do a task basis that knowledge and memory, right? This was probably 25 years back the measure of success, right? Which basically means that somebody who had really good memory and knowledge and intelligence, who reads a lot of books and who's been a rank holder through his career, like through his schooling and everything, generally turns out to be a successful person, right? 20, 25 years back. You agree? Uh, but I think that definition of success has changed. Yeah. Uh, Prince, are you still there? I think you're
Yeah, sir. I'm here.
okay. Your screen seemed to be frozen.
Okay.
So what I was saying was that definition of success has probably got diluted a lot in recent times with technology, right? Which is to say that the first two layers of your ability to recall information and give back the information, that I think technology is doing it so well, right? There is no premium for you to remember information and reproduce the information. Yeah, recalling and reproduction is not the premium today, right? The premium is once you have that knowledge, are you able to utilize that information and create value, right? Either through some process engineering or coming up with some new solutions, right? Asking the right questions and finding a solution to that, things like that, right? Which basically means that earlier you used to say, right, we need these T-shaped skills, right? So you are a kind of broad generalist, but you're a deep expert into one topic. Yeah. Now it's become a comb-shaped skill. What do you call it? Right? Earlier it evolved into pie-shaped skill. Now people say comb-shaped skill, which is basically to say that you need expertise in multiple areas, right? So if you're a finance guy, you need technology, you need to understand AI, you need to understand data structures, you need to understand business analytics, you need to understand bit of macroeconomics, you need to understand bit of behavioral finance, right? A lot of subjects, it's even sustainability for that matter, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of subjects which you will probably need to be at least knowledgeable about, or at least know what is happening in the world for you to even be good at that area, right? And then that evolution is happening, right? And the more you are able to apply these cross domain expertise, cross functional expertise across different subjects, and then uh, create content and create value on top of that, I think that becomes a premium at some stage. Now, I'm not saying I've been successful. That's my journey, is to at least make myself somewhere closer to that outcome, right? I have long way to go, meaning I'm like I'll be very probably in the lower rungs of the ladder, right? Compared to a lot of people who are already there, right? But if you look at all the people, successful people in the industry today, are people who have done uh, that task of using cross-functional expertise to build their careers. Right? You would think that they are just experts in one field, but you talk to some of the best fund managers and CIOs, right? They can talk about anything under the sun today, right? Talk to a fund manager probably 30 years back, he would just talk about security evaluations and stuff like that, right? But talk to a fund manager today, he can talk about multiple subjects, yeah. And that would be required, I think, for the next generation of people.
Right, sir. So you rightly pointed out that first point is there is a quote like only and book as well, only the paranoid survive. Like what is happening,
Yeah,
you need to be paranoid about that and like constantly evolving. Evolution is the like
yeah,
one of the finest principle of nature as well. So if you're not
yeah.
evolving, you will get stay. So that's point is covered. And
Correct.
sir, next point you talked about, sir, कि ESG is also an emerging area, and I know you specialize a lot in ESG. You have done a lot of workshop for CFA FRM India as a volunteer. I understand it. So, sir, ESG is a need or just a compliance thing? What you see where the industry is heading?
Can you repeat that question? ESG is a.
Okay, I'm repeating this question. So,
Hmm?
ESG is a need or it's just a compliance burden? Where you see it? I was seeing that who are the ESG rating provider? Like there are some 19 listed ESG rating
Hmm.
providers on CB website, you know. So where do
Okay.
you see these kind of things?
Okay. So I think
ESG.
the question is very broad. So we'll need one more hour to just discuss
No, no, in short.
this. Yeah. So I see the problem is we need to understand. I think the industry has got a little confused with this whole topic area of sustainability, right? Why? Because I think a lot of things came together and people are not able to decipher the whole subject area, right? When I start my workshops, I kind of start this whole. You have been part of the workshop, so you
Yeah,
would know, right? The
yeah,
why
yeah.
behind sustainability, right? First, people have to understand why is sustainability important, right? Which is like what led to this whole conversation around sustainability, right? So, any sort of idiosyncratic risks, right? So, what do you say? Now, there was this. I don't know if you've heard of something called the Rumsfeld matrix, right? So you can and it's used in risk management nowadays, right? Which is to break down something which you know, and if they are, uh, you know, something which you know and something which you think you know, your perception and your actuality of knowledge into a matrix, and then classify it into known knowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, and unknown unknowns. Yeah. So there are the whole concept of sustainability is that there may be risks which the current market has not identified. Yeah, and not priced into the current setup, and hence it becomes a need. For example, climate change, yeah, or climate risk, right? No, do we as a financial ecosystem appreciate that it's a risk? Yes or no, right? Now, Donald Trump may feel it's a complete hoax. Scientists may feel the otherwise, and of course, it's a long-term risk, right? It's not something which will impact you today, right? But is it a risk? The answer is yes, right? Will it impact your cash flows at some stage? The answer is yes.
For sure.
But how do you price it in and how do you incorporate that in your valuation modeling? Nobody has been able to come with a proper framework for that. And that's where the confusion is, right? So first let's appreciate that when we talk about sustainability, we have to first appreciate that the concept of sustainability is that are there certain set of both idiosyncratic risks as well as systemic risks, right? Because in ESG is a very broad term, right? Like E hai, S hai, G hai, right? Within those broad spectrum of risks, there are certain risks which are purely idiosyncratic, specific to a specific company, right? Like if you take For example, governance or safety practices, right? Probability of an accident happening or a legal case happening or a shutdown happening. These are very idiosyncratic risks specific to that company. Governance may lead to, let's say, capital misallocation or a fraud risk or a M&A, which is very value destructive, so on and so forth. So those are very idiosyncratic risks. Then there are certain risks within the ESG component, which are very, what you call systemic risk, right? Which can impact not just your company, which can impact everyone, right? Now, this may trickle down through multiple things, right? So what do you call physical risks, which are something happens to the nature and it impacts your company and you're kind of bankrupt because of that, right? Or transition risk, right? There are technological changes happening in terms of how we create energy, and there are regulatory aspects which are happening, which may put your assets, what do you call the stranded assets risk, right? Your assets may get stranded because of regulation or because of new technologies, right? And that's called the transition risk. Now, these two risks has a way of trickling down into your balance sheet or cash flow, right? And that risk, does the market really pricing in? Now, the debate is that certain people are arguing whether that's a risk at all, right? Some people are in the boat where we appreciate it's a risk, but I don't know what to do with the risk. And the third set of people are, it is a risk, please find a way to incorporate that, right? So there are these three spectrums of people, right? Donald Trump falls in the last category, which is he thinks it's not a risk. Then there are certain section of the population who thinks it's a risk but don't know what to do with it, which is probably our Indian ecosystem, right? All the fund managers and everyone who thinks, अच्छा ये risk है, कुछ करना है, but पता नहीं क्या करना है, right? And then the third set of people are people like us who are saying, yeah, it is a risk. Let's go and find out ways to incorporate this in the right way so that we are ahead of the market. Yeah. Now, so that's how it is, right? So we have to, so it's not a, so compliance is just one aspect. So when you say compliance and regulation is an outcome, right? So let's take a simple thing, right? For example, AI is a risk. Yeah. Like AI, ESG ko chhod do, right? Let's take any risk which impacts, like technological advancement is a risk. Do you agree that technological advancement as a concept could be a risk? So AI coming in is a risk. Yeah. If AI is coming in, why are regulators running behind ethical governance, responsible AI, ethical AI, ye wo falana tikana jo bhi hai, right? Like, why do we do that? So there are two aspects. Yeah. So from a financial aspect, you need to understand there are two aspects to risk. One, the risks which impacts a company or a portfolio, right? And because of that, what we have to do as financial market players. Second is how regulators react to that, which is what we call macro prudential regulation, right? So there may be system like 2008 जब financial crisis हुआ था, बहुत सारा regulation लेके आया government, right? Like in terms of
banking
governance, yeah, banking, this thing, yeah. उसके पहले Graham Beach Bailey Act था, right? उसके पहले investment banking और corporate banking separate रखना चाहिए, Glass-Steagall, all that, right? So there are multiple regulatory frameworks which people come in when they see there is a systemic risk, and that's called the macro prudential regulation, right? Then there are micro prudential regulation that at individual company level or at individual system, like individual kind of industry level, there may be certain regulations which we need to also regulate, like ESG rating, right? जब ESG बढ़ा, there were a lot of players who came up with ESG rating. अभी उसमें गलती fraud भी हो सकता है. उसमें there are certain bad actors who can say do what we call the greenwashing and things like that. So you need regulatory aspects for that. But the macro prudential regulations are not brought in to stifle the industry. That is to create a system which improves the industry, right? So for example, what we call in financial, the flow trades or the regime trades, right? When regulation changes or regulations are brought in, that is to do two things, right? So especially in the sustainability world, why was macro prudential regulation brought in? One, you have to motivate the people to move into renewable. अभी जल्दी like एक बंदा oil gas चला रहा है, उसको बोलो तुम तेरा इंडस्ट्री बंद करो और renewable energy का प्लान डालो, वो तो नहीं होगा ना. The net cost of transition will take time against the net value you generate. So how would you do it? You do it through a regulatory system which changes behavior, right? So a behavioral change has to happen in the industry. Second is you have to make it the cost of capital a little more expensive for people who are in the traditional industries, right? So that capital flows into areas which could then change the ecosystem, which is more sustainable ecosystems and stuff like that. So that was the motivation behind what you call sustainability regulations. Yeah. हमने क्या करते हैं, so we
Sir, you were right. I have to stop. You were right about it. We need a separate 1 hour for that sustainability.
exactly
So, sir,
right.
ultimately, I want to understand it. You love, first of all, I got like you love this work so much, and you can like you can you
मैं तो
can
मैं 2 घंटा
yeah
बात कर
you
सकता
can you can talk on this point like for 2 3 hours. So the okay, we'll refine this question. So what kind of opportunities you see in ESG space for people? Like, I know there are some people in our community who are working in, like, let's say offshore areas. They are in offshore business development, but they have specialization in ESG. They have CFA certification. How can they put to use when the organization only wants to like do it for just say, for the purpose of compliance? When the funds want to see, like when the outsiders want to invest in the money, they want to see what are the ESG ratings. So for the sake of doing it. So first case was that okay, I mixed two things. No? So for let me clear it for you. First thing, what kind of opportunities that people can prepare themselves for in ESG space. Second question is literally when in India ESG is not that much be valued, so people can make a successful career in. It's my doubt because when people don't just want to do it on paper purpose, so would it be feasible for them?
that then goes back to your first question, na, whether if you want to pursue a
Right,
career in something, right,
right.
and you're passionate about a subject, does the
Interest and all.
are interest है, but passion pursue करना है, whether that
Right.
organization matches with that value system. So your question, if I break it down, what you're asking is the organization itself is doing it not because it believes in it, it's doing for some compliance activity. So then why would you want to go into an ESG role in that company, right? So
So
that
I have one more question, sir, on this point itself. No? So
mm,
we are talking about the CFA study has done a lot of workshops on ESG. So it is for sure that they are seeing opportunities in this space in the coming future. That's why they are doing it. So when the organizations are behaving this way, how people are supposed to build their skills and transition to these area. So मतलब थोड़ा सा मुझे खुद confusion है. I want
so that's what I said, right? First you have to uh, I think I answered it 10 minutes back. Right? There are three types of people who are in this industry right now. One who don't believe in the risk. Second, who believe in the risk but don't know what to do. And the third are people who do believe in the risk and want to do something, right? And they have some frameworks and structures in mind. You can fall in the last two categories, right? One is
okay.
there may be organizations which want to do something who don't know. Now, if you are an expert, you can solve that problem for them, right? Which is तुम एक फ्रेमवर्क लेके आओ उसको कैसे करना है and come up with something amazingly well so that the organization can
Creativity
adopt
and
that.
all.
Yeah, so you will be successful in that role. दूसरा है कि there are organizations who are doing it, they want to do it better, they were doing it well, you become an expert and you do it, right? So that's one part. But to become an expert, then your question is, to become an expert, what do you need to do? Then you need to work in organizations which make you an expert. So there are policy advocacy organizations, right, which or rating organizations jo which get into consulting advisory kind of roles in sustainability, right, and work specifically on this topic. Now if you are very passionate about this topic, then you first have to spend some years, a few years of a career in that role, and then slowly shift. And if you're of course a guy who's also passionate about finance, then shift at some stage, shift, intersperse both these layers of knowledge and then shift slowly back into finance, right? Which is you become a sustainability expert, or and you are a finance expert, and then you're now clubbing both. There are a lot of people who are doing that today, right? So there are multiple organizations which are set up who are financial guys who are doing financial advisory and consulting, but also on the sustainability front. Yeah,
Okay.
got it.
So yeah, got it. Sir, मतलब, if we want to like get a number, how many opportunities we can see in the coming 4 5 years, like a number of like say 100, 200, 500 in India we are talking about it. Like just to
I
get
may,
a
I may be the wrong person because I'm
Hmm,
I don't track that. I may be the wrong
okay,
person to answer that. But
okay,
see, the I can just give you the direction of travel, right? I mean, as a
okay, okay,
numbers,
okay,
so
okay, got it.
I've not tracked, right? The direction of
Okay,
travel is that two things will happen, right? So one is, see, of course, there are risks as well because when funding from US and things, countries like US stop, that's how you see, right? All the mostly sustainable companies, jo, जिसके stock prices were extremely doing
developed
well from
worlds, yeah.
21 to 24, all are doing extremely badly today, right? But it's a cycle, right? So it's a probably it's a mix of a political cycle as well as an economic cycle. But the direction of travel is that at some stage, given the amount of energy needs we have, all that energy needs cannot be met with non-renewable alone. Yeah. So you will need a mix of renewable energy and non-renewable energy. both from a geopolitical kind of security safety point of view, as well as from the world's demand point of view, both, right? Like world को कितना demand चाहिए होगा, एक AI data center to run it, the amount of energy which will need, do you think only from coal and oil it can come? No. So you need renewable sources like sun and wind and everything, right? Plus batteries, right? So all that is going to happen, right? Now, of course, that is the direction of travel. Now, how many jobs will get created, all that, that's more a policy question. I will
Okay,
really not track that.
okay,
Yeah.
sir. So there's a very short rapid fire round. No? I'll ask one question and you need to reply without even thinking. Okay.
Ash,
The first
Bapre.
question
Without
is
thinking, how do you answer here?
you just answer first
Acha.
response. No? If you're not playing badminton, what will you do in leisure time?
Spend time with my daughter,
Okay, great. Read
or
Elio or
or or
one.
re- or, or do some related to something which I like teach workshops, do
Okay,
some CFA events.
okay. So second question is read Elio or Warren Buffett. What will you prefer to read?
Warren Buffett from value principles perspective, and Ray Dalio from the knowledge he brings in terms of his
Only one.
writings.
One preference.
नहीं, दोनों
Stop.
का skill set ही अलग है ना.
Okay.
Like Ray Dalio, I wouldn't look at Ray Dalio as an investing guru. Meaning, of course, he's an investing guru, but people don't follow Ray Dalio because he's an investing guru.
Success
Warren Buffett
principle and
because
all. Concept
yeah,
philosophy. They
yeah,
bring.
it's principles and meaning what he writes is amazing, right? Ray Dalio's principles and stuff like that, those are good. Warren Buffett because his underlying base principles always remain steady, right?
Right. Next question is more money or CXO designation? What
Sorry,
will you choose? More
can
money
you
or CXO designation? What will you choose?
CXO designation with more money?
Okay, one choice. You always want to end. Got it.
ऐसा
So,
जब binary questions पूछोगे तो
okay. Next is school, college friends or professional network?
come again?
School, college friends or professional network? Who will you
Oh my
choose to hang out?
depends on the mood actually. So when I'm in a
Okay.
when I'm in a professional mood, professional network. जब time pass करने का है तो college.
Okay. Last question is in networking events where one can find you on front rows or chit-chatting outside with some of your friends in professional net.
Mostly chit chatting outside.
Okay,
I,
I've
I
seen
go
that
to
as
I
well.
I go to events for meeting people, right? So
Yeah, I've seen that you and Amit sir and all chit-chatting outside and
yeah,
event is going inside.
I just love to spend time with people and talk to people rather than
Yeah, sir, great.
sitting on a
So, sir,
chair and
yeah, right, sir. So I just want to give the floor to you. So any message you want to give to the people, like you see some skill set and something they need to do at this moment, so you can share that message.
and this is for an audience
Of
mostly
finance
in
professionals
finance.
who are already working in the industry.
So as I said, I think we have covered this in the last whatever 45 minutes, right? But I
Yeah.
would say that don't just restrict your kind of knowledge skill sets to only finance, right? The world is changing. There would be a mix of skill sets required. So I think people should appreciate it, upskill themselves in multiple areas, right? It could be analytics, it could be technology, it could be AI, right? There will come a situation where you will, meaning the premium will not be on financial knowledge, right? So if you're an expert in just modeling, that's not the premium anymore. Yeah, a modeling Claude can build a model in 5 minutes, which you would have taken one day. Yeah, so the premium will change, and people who kind of learn the skill sets to incorporate the new technologies into their workflows will be the one who are successful. So learn the tools, techniques, and the principles required to succeed in that new world. So one is first is appreciate how the world is changing. Second is upskill yourself for that changed world, and third is get that into your daily habits and behaviors.
Got it, sir. Whatever you have shared in the last message is perfectly aligning with the system. We teach three secrets: assess, act, and accelerate. Like you said,
Correct.
have first evaluate what is happening, then act what you need to build, and then accelerate on those pillars. And thank you so much, sir. You guided on all the areas very well, like level, career levels, and then what skills need to be built, like three key pillars: aspirations, ability, and agility, and all. And in the last, like sustainability part, we are missing on that, but we'll take another session for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in
One more
last,
hour of
yeah,
sustainability books.
And sorry for that. I have to stop you on that front.
You opened a Pandora's box by asking that question. So
That's why I came out of it instantly. So thank you so much, sir, on everyone's behalf for sharing your knowledge for the past like two plus decades knowledge. And we are obliged to you, grateful to you, and thank you a lot, sir. And
thanks.
guys, if you are serious about not just working in finance but rising in this industry, then don't just consume this passively. Like it's a like knowledge wealth of सर ने इतने nuggets दिए हैं, like if you pick few from this podcast and really start working on it, you will be like far ahead than everybody else. And if you are committed to accelerating growth in global finance, subscribe to this channel because we are bringing real blueprints every week only for you. See you guys in the next episode. Till then, do some great work and live your life to the fullest. Bye.
Thank you, Prince. I think you're doing a great job by doing this for the benefit of everyone. So